In this video today, I am going to be demonstrating how to install 18 by 36 tile. Not just demonstrating, I'm actually building a shower, and we're going horizontally. So this is our tile. It's an 18 by 36 Italian ceramic. Pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. The reason we chose it is because it is exactly the same dimension as the glass mirror that comes with the heated system that's going in our shower nook. Now, this is going to be an 18 by 18 hole. We're going to build that in a minute. Once we get the first two courses of tile installed and dried out, we'll be able to measure off where the grout line is and cut our hole respectively so that everything is going to be seamless and perfect. And there's a few things we got to know before you get started on a tile job. One, it's always good to have the end before the beginning. So if we take a look at the floor, we have a wood plywood subfloor. We have this heated mat here. Now this is from Warm Up. Warm Up is giving us a heated coil system that goes in between these grooves. It's very similar to Schluter Dieter in that regard, if you're familiar with that product. And on top of that, we're going to be putting this vinyl plank from Mohawk Flooring. And this is a 100% waterproof vinyl core, vinyl finish. Bam. It is going to be absolutely gorgeous. Yes, you can install vinyl flooring with a heated system. Once that video is available, we'll put the link in the description so that you can follow along as well. And we are going to be finishing off. We picked up this really nice decorative trim to go along with our stone. It's a very similar tone. It is easily scratched, so we have to manage it really carefully. What we wanted to do is just lay all these components down and get a measurement from floor to ceiling, because this tile, when it's horizontal, is going to go just to the edge of my shower pan. That is awesome. So I want to cut this trim so that it goes all the way down to the floor. So I built this and designed this around the stone. I like to go shopping for my stone before I build my tile area because I built a bench. And I want to be able to have matte stone sit there plus grout line and be perfect, which it is. Thank you very much. No applause necessary. Here's the deal. This particular trim has got a neat feature that it has an extra 1/2 inch detail on it. All right, so the stone plus that 1/2 inch detail will take us just outside of this shower area, which will be absolutely perfect. And then we are going to have a nice clean line. We're going to use that on all of these outside corners. This particular stone is also the same height as the mirror that goes in this backsplash area. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the stone here, replace the back, recess it with the glass, pick up the stone here to catch up the grout line again, and continue on. And once we get to the second course of stone, the third course of stone will be about here somewhere. And then that's going to be 18 inches up. That'll be the mirror spot. All right? So this is where knowing the end from the beginning comes in handy. If you do all your purchasing before you build, you can intentionally design everything to minimize those sliver cuts and make a design that's flawless. And now we have the products laid out. I can get an actual measurement from that flooring up to the ceiling. I'm not going to have any surprises anywhere I go. We're going to use the laser level to draw my lines, keep all my tile nice and level and plumb. We're going to use a space leveling system. Now on this channel I have used, I think, 4 different systems in the past. This one's from Lash, and the reason I picked this one is because it's available at Home Depot. It's the simplest one to get your hands on. You don't have to order it, you don't have to go to a special website. I'm not going to get any money from it, but it works. And this little doohickey here is 20 bucks, okay? For 20 bucks, and you can put that on there, you can tighten your wedge, compress your lines together, get a flawless grout line. And on big stone, you cannot install it without a clip system. Can't emphasize this enough. I don't care how wonderful you are, how patient you are, how careful you are. Without a leveling clip system, large stone will always look like junk because the corners will always have lippage. So use a clip system, 20, 40, 60 bucks, a few hundred for the tile, and you'll have a gorgeous shower, okay? So let's go through the process, and which is simple. Mix your cement, start from the bottom up. We've already got our waterproofing membrane here. There's no other prep work to do. We're just going to get our first 2 courses in today so we have something established and set that we can build on to finish the rest of the shower later. There we go. Now the thing about modified cement is it generally is best when it's a little bit sloppy. So when you're putting it on the wall, it can be a little tricky. Once it's on the wall, you can then comb it out. Now the tile rules, there's some standard installation rules and general practices that everybody tries to adhere to. One of them is wet areas. You want to have probably 95% coverage, which is a fancy word for saying, hey, make sure every part of your stone is in contact with the wall. Why don't they just say 100%? Because there are people crazy enough to think that if it's 98% coverage, it's not good enough. So they say 95, which basically is a way of saying, hey, you use your own judgment here. But if most of your tile is making contact with the wall, you got a good bonus. You want to have it all combing in the same direction with large tile. Only with large tile. I know, I hear guys on the internet all the time. You have to collapse all your ridges. That's what these are. You want to put pressure on the tile to knock them over. And if you don't collapse your ridges, you don't have a good enough bond, and they're all going to be going along the short side of the tile. So on a 12 by 24, if this was a 12 by 24, they want you going this way. So you collapse the ridges on the short side. And I say, what if it's 24 by 24? Then it doesn't matter, right? Which way you go. Well, if it doesn't matter for a bigger stone, it shouldn't matter for a smaller stone. There we go. That's called buttering the toast. Or back butter is a phrase you probably heard on all of the television shows. And get it where you want it. Tiles installed. It's not that tricky. You're going to want to use a couple of spacers here, right? And so whenever you're installing tile, you want it installed off of the floor. And hopefully as level as you can possibly make it as well. And you can use these little wedges to do that. Now, again, oh yeah, nice. Good stuff. We had that cement sitting for a while, so it's got a little bit chunky. What you want to do here, before you put your leveling system in, use the corner of your trowel, just clean off the last ridge or so, and then slide these bad boys in. Okay? At least 3 locations with this kind of tile. So here's our tile edging system. We're sliding it in behind the tile. Okay, we want to have that floor there to set our depth. Use a little bit of cement up here to lock these squares to the wall. And here's a great time to use a laser level. Line it up at the bottom of that trim on the front edge. Once we have your horizontal, your level and your plumb established, then you've got the basic outline of your area that you're working. Using a laser level allows you to really establish your line. Okay? Now, this cement can dry overnight. It'll hold it all in place without interfering with future installation. That is perfect. I like where that's heading. I've got my clips in now. For now, we're going to use this gun. This creates compression. And basically, it pulls the surface of this tile nice and tight together. Eliminates the lippage. Beautiful. Sweet. Now we got access to our plumbing, which we're going to have to still modify. Okay. And we move on to this wall. All right. We're putting a lot of cement on the wall. We're basically setting up for the next 2 tiles. All right. I already know that my back wall has got a little bit of a curve here at the bottom. So we're going to go thin cement on the bottom, heavy on the top. Rely on the leveling system to balance it all out. And we're gonna go stack tile, which means this full tile, the next one goes right on top of it, and so on and so on. The only grout line in this whole shower is gonna be right down the middle of this wall. And that is so symmetrical and sexy, there's no reason to bother with trying to stagger it. That'll just create a little bit of confusion, I think. So, this is an experience issue here, but I know my wall is not flat. It's flat here, it humps here, it curves in, and then it humps out again. So, I don't want to put all the cement on the wall and then back butter. In this situation, I'm going to back butter this tile, and I'm going to build up. Whew. Let's start out with the back butter and get that done. This is our minimum to guarantee that this tile is installed wet area approved. This is going to be my bottom side here. I know for a fact that I need to build up right here. And then I'm going to place this one in. Before I put it in, I want to get these two clips in place. One for that side. All right, so we're going to get our corner set here. I have to push the bottom in. And that's just to collapse the ridges. All right. Again, we're going to take our trowel, clean out a little bit of that bottom inch, half-inch area, throw in some clips. But this wall is really uneven, so I'm going to use 4 this time. Okay. And I'm going to use a couple off the side. Here we go. What we're going to do here, Matt, is we're going to have a grout line lined up with the edge on here, because the actual tile lands somewhere around here. So we're going to create a grout line here to finish that off. So we'll cut the inside on this tile after we install this one. So we've got a little bit of mercy. Our actual measurement here is 22 1/8. Minus grout line is 22, right? Wow, we want to throw in a little bit of mercy to go with that. Let's go 21 7/8. Yeah, I got Matt working on the table saw because it takes longer to put the cement on this wall than it does to cut the tile. It is common to need buildup on a tile. So, when you need it, just do it. There's nothing wrong with it. Just gotta do what you gotta do. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so I got Matty out on the saw making my cuts for me. If you hear that weird buzzing sound, it's not your ears, don't be worried. What we're gonna do here is we just dropped our laser line on our grout, and we're basically taking measurements to the wall. And we're gonna put him on the saw to cut in advance, so that when we have our cement ready, we can install all of these tiles really quickly before it starts to get old and dried out. If we mix the cement and go one tile at a time, you'd be surprised how fast it'll be an hour, hour and a half from now, and that cement will start to get too thick to be valuable. So get all your cuts done first if you can. It's one of the benefits of doing the first 2 rows on the first day. Now I've got my lines established, I can measure off, be comfortable, and I can put up like 8 or 9 of these tiles in the next 10 minutes. So the next step for us is actually to create our niche in the wall. And it's an interesting space. This will be 18 by 18, okay, which is basically about here. We're gonna cut this open with my saw. We're gonna build a niche out of the Schluter board, install it, and then we're gonna install a brand new clear mirror. Now, if you haven't seen this product before, it's basically a mirror with a warming system that's built in. These folks send us the copy of this product here to check it out on our channel. And I looked at some of the products that they've installed it with, and I just wasn't really all that happy with having it as a part of the flat surface of the wall. So I came up with this great design concept to install it as the back wall of a niche. This way, I can put my shampoo and stuff up here and my razor, and when I'm having a shower, I'm gonna be looking at a mirror in a hot shower with no fogging going on. I think it's a brilliant idea. I hope they like it. We're gonna install this. Now, if you wanna learn how to cut and install a niche during a tile process, we have that video already done. We're gonna put a link in the description for you so you can learn all the step by step. So we're almost done our tile work. By We've got a few other tiles to do here, but we have to finish our niche first. So what we're gonna do is use this Schluter board to create an 18 by 18 niche. So that means I gotta cut 19 on my outside. We're gonna assemble this with the Page 2-in-1 Seal and Bond. You could also use Curdy Fix if you live in an area where they don't have that available. And if you want to see how I do this, you can watch the video. But once I build this niche, basically I'm in a position where I can put in my clear mirror, finish all the tile. Then it's just a matter of painting this place and time to assemble our counter. My God, I think 3 more days and I'm gonna have this bathroom done. Having a quick look at this place, you'd never think that, but we're about 3 days out. Very excited. So my basic approach for doing niches is to do it as I build. And you can see here, I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but I've drawn a line based on the full dimensional tile all the way across my board, and that'll be my cut line. This is my original guess, so I was close. But now that we have stone installed, we get to go exactly where that is, and we're gonna use Curdy board again for our niche. We're gonna build it and then install it in the finished hole, and then we're gonna use our 2-in-1 sealant or Curdy Fix, and we're gonna use that to seal up the joint to create the waterproof bond to this product here. And then it's done. For all the details on that, we're gonna show you, just check the link in the description below. We've got a video on how to build a custom niche in your wall so that it finishes on the grout lines and it doesn't look cheap and ugly. We had someone send us a picture the other day. They're having a house built. And shout out to this, because that was awesome. And the tiler came in, and so they had someone frame it, and then they had somebody do all of the wall board, and then they had somebody tile it. 3 different guys. Question, where's the project manager? He wasn't on site managing because it was off center. all of the dimensions of this did not line up with the tile that was being used. And so he's got cuts and and the lines are inside it's just a disaster. I mean, I'm gonna have to show that picture on the live show. You're gonna get a kick out of that. Let's get on with this here. This is 1/4-inch cement board I got in the back. It's easier to cut, and you can use a drywall saw for that. My mirror that I'm putting in the back, the clear mirror we're gonna install, which will be in another video. Make sure you check that out. It's actually 17 7/8 square. So we're gonna go use an 18-inch hole, add 1/4 because we're adding all the stone after the fact. So go 18 1/4. And then we have to, that'll be the size of the back wall, plus 1/2 inch in every direction. For the top and the bottom, left and right. So we're gonna cut our hole here at 19 1/4. And then we'll build our niche and slide that in so that the finished stone is perfect. So I'm just taking that information and I'm adding another 1/2 inch on this. Now, no matter how much planing you do in advance, yes, we try to make everything perfect and level and square, and doesn't necessarily mean it ends up that way. But what you want to do is make sure that everything is flush, because when you cut this niche line in and then you add your trims, you don't want to have things going from 0 to hero with this tile poking out or the grout lines growing. So really it's important to have this in the cement, have it set before you build up, right? And once we have that, we can cut it here. Okay, so my framework in here is actually just shy of 19. Cement board actually can be scored and snapped. It's just not easy. with Max in here with the camera, the last thing I want to do is create cement dust. It's not good for the cameras, so I got to do this old school. This is for you, Max. It smells like a fire when you break this stuff off, right? Okay, I'm making this hole exactly 19. Okay. Yeah. The reason here is I'm making the hole and I'm going to assemble my Schluter box. I'm going to glue it together, put in a couple of braces on the side here to hold the weight, and then I'm just going to slide that Schluter box in. Done. So, that's my height. And there's my side. Okay. Loving it. This is the easiest way to make a niche. This way you can build your niche custom to the stone that you're installing. You'll never have ugly grout lines and weird cuts. So we're just installing it this way. I'm going to install my wood blocks that would basically sit underneath the shelf and carry the weight of the shelf. Nice and simple. Now, generally speaking, the Cruddy board 1/2 inch is a structural element, so it'll support all of its own weight there, no problem at all. But I want to make sure that the whole box as a whole has some element of structure to it. A lot easier to get these started now. And we're being very careful here to not put it in exactly level. We're just adding a little bit of a 1 degree slope. I'm building the niche with a little bit of a 1 degree slope. So if I put my structure in the 1 degree slope, then everything will work out fine. And then the water, after I add the tile, will always be draining out as well. So let's just see if this fits the hole. Here we go. So now our niche is installed, and don't be concerned about the back because we're putting in a clear mirror, which is basically it's a low voltage mirror that has 2 lights in it and a heated surface so that it doesn't ever fog. And I'm using this as my shampoo niche and also my shaving mirror. So we'll show that a little bit later. But now this is all installed, we're ready to tile around here, and you'll see the benefit of installing your niche after you start tiling, because you can make all the grout lines perfect every time. Here we go. All right. There we go. Because my wall isn't straight, I'm going to be just doing a little bit of that to fill up the back space. So here's the shelf, right on the grout line. So we cut a tile for the side, tile for this side. We put the top on, and then tomorrow we can trim out the whole middle after we put the mirror in. Perfect every time. And that adhesive will have no problem drying because it has air from the back side. So even though all this is wet and waterproofed, by tomorrow morning, rock solid. so we have to be a little bit creative here because my wall isn't straight. The wall actually flexes back and the tile has to go in right. So we're gonna just kind of build this out as we go. And the secret here is put enough cement on the back that you have to force it in place. That's how you'll know you'll have good adhesion. This is great. Okay. I'm gonna put these clips on as we go. And the reason we can't just put a couple of dollops is because we're going to be putting in a glass shower door. And in a perfect world, I might have a track system that installs on this side. Although I think I'm going to install one that doesn't use it. Just because I'd rather not have to.
Top tape gonna work?
I know, it'll stick to the metals. It's gonna have to be a painter's tape of some sort. So the metal that we're using here, I don't even remember the color. I just know that my tile store has all the swatches because Schluter, the tile company, they carry multiple metal colors. And the secret here is you can custom order them. Most places they carry, you know, your chrome, your anodized metal, maybe black, but that's about it. But you can get all kinds of colors and you can find one exact that matches the tile that you're putting in. Now, we're just gonna tape this nice and tight. Now this metal, it has a little ridge on it, on each side, that creates a grout line even under compression. So I can use the tape here now to hold myself nice and steady, fill in the gap. I'll tape the top as well. And this should hopefully hold it nice and tight while it's drying. Move out, you bring me down. Da-da-da-da. Eliminate any lippage here so the door closes nice. Okay, so here I'm measuring this. Now I've got my finished flooring in place. So I can measure exact for my height. I want a grout line on the top and a grout line on the bottom. So I'm actually going to cut it right here and then scribe. Okay. So it's next day, our cement is all nice and dry now. We are ready to remove all of these tabs. You know, it's funny because all the years we've been making videos, we've shown how to use the clips, but we've never shown how to remove them. And maybe I've used a measuring tape in a couple of cases, but your best choice would be to go out and grab a rubber mallet. I've had this for years. It's just a cheap little $6 hammer, but it comes in real handy in making sure you don't damage your work when you're finished. So this is our clip, right? It's behind the tile right now, okay? And this part right here is actually manufactured as a weak spot. So it holds together pretty good this way when you're pulling straight out. So when you're tightening your clip, it works really good. But the weak spot is actually going the opposite direction. It peels off relatively simple. So once it's embedded in the cement and the cement is dry, don't just do this after a couple hours. You just take your rubber mallet and run it across your tile because you won't cause any damage. All right? This is awesome. Stress relief, it's therapy. And it's easy. Now, if you're in a spot like this where you had a lot of cement gathered up, you're gonna have a bit of a fight on your hands. But generally speaking, that's not the rule, that's the exception. You'll notice if you hit the opposite direction, it will work, just not as effectively. This is my favorite part because this is where you get to see what your shower is going to look like when you're done, right? It really starts to come together. Important to note, when you're done taking them all off, grab all of these little wedges because these are not garbage. All right, the white clips have been broken, so they are garbage, but all these wedges, which is half of the cost of the system, is completely reusable, okay? So, the only thing you need to buy next time you tile is those little white clips that go in behind the stone. Because all those wedges are salvageable. And that's money in the bank. So tiling a niche. I'm going to go through step by step here. Some awesome techniques to give a great result. Now, in some of our videos in the past, you've seen us use much simpler concepts, right? We just straight pieces of trim. We didn't miter the joints, that sort of thing. This shower, we're going to go all in, okay? Because people are going to be standing here staring at the mirror, we're going with mitered trim, all right? Which means that the joints are going to be flawless. And we used our metal blade on our miter saw. We actually used the Evolution saw, which is awesome. It's one blade, cuts metal and wood. That's a great tool, by the way. I highly recommend that. If you're a homeowner and you want to buy one good saw, that'll cut just about anything for you. Now, this trim is going to be going up around here, right? That gives a nice clean look. The secret is installing the ceiling tile. That's the secret. And this is the one you want to install first. It might seem backwards because you're fighting against gravity, but if you put the top in first and then you add the sides and then you build up the sides to add some structural support, then your shelf can be installed last with a tiny slope on it. You have the ability to maneuver it. If you put the bottom in first, then you've got to cut the sides with a perfect slope and it just gets really messy. So here we go. Our ceiling tile has a factory edge that's going to go in the front. Okay, and recessed a little bit. Okay, making room for the trim. Funny enough, that was on the wet saw. Such a good job, looked like a factory edge. Here we go. So that's what it'll look like going into place. Okay, which is perfect. Now, I could put cement on there and stick it up, but how do I keep it from falling off? One of the reasons I love working with the Curdy board so much, you get scraps, and this stuff is rigid, and it's easy to cut. So I'm going to take this, minus my 1/2 inch for my tile, okay, and now I've got my Curdy board. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it in two. And it's safer to just score the top and then snap it. All right. Polystyrene is dangerous with a knife. If you just go cutting through, it can take on all kinds of different directions as the blade heats up. So be careful of that. You don't want to hurt yourself. And I just get those in place. Once I put the tile in, I can just prop in the tile. Perfect, right? In this situation, the shower niche is flush here. It's pretty flush on each side, but the top, this tile is hanging a little lower. And the reason for that is this. We built this shower niche to be perfectly level here, right? And if you haven't seen that, you got to watch that video. It's always nice to give yourself a little extra space here. Because this technique works no matter how much gap there is up here, I always like to add a little bit of room for mercy. And once again, my cement is a little bit wet. There's nothing wrong with working with wet cement. It works. It's just messy. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to slide the Schluter trim in after we're done with the tile. All right. There we go. Now we don't want this up against the side because this allows me to hold the weight and then do the side tile as well. One piece of metal here. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to maneuver this edging right flush with the tile. You can see this tile sticking down a little bit and I got a little bit extra room here. So I'm going to take my tile spacering wedge now and I'm going to compress that cement till it's nice and flush. Okay, double check this installation. I'm going to come forward just a little bit. There we go. Because once this is in place, you don't want it to move. Having a few of these extra spacers around doesn't hurt. Now, here we go. I want to get flush with this tile. So I'm actually going to wedge the back. Okay, a little more pressure there. Okay. So what I'm going to do for measuring this is I want to go from my flush surface right to the edge of this stone, and I want to put my pencil mark just underneath it. Okay? And the secret is this. I'm going to scribe that stone just by holding the pencil. Everything's square and level. And I want to hand it off to my son to cut it, and I'm going to have him cut right on that pencil line. The trick here is you want the stone just a hair smaller than you need it. That way you have a grout line, so we can set this on the structure of the shelf and use those little spacers on top to then transport the load from this stone onto this one. Then we can get rid of our braces and put the shelf in when we're done.
Boom.
Make sure that when you're doing this, because we're on grout lines, that you're measuring from a full tile up until where you're cutting. So you're cutting off the picture on the tile so that your tile lines all continue on. It's a small thing, but these are the details, the attention to the detail here that's what's going to make this a beautiful job. If you rush too much and you don't pay attention to the little things like factory edges and the grout lines and the detail in the tile itself, you'll be disappointed. Because you might not see it right away when you're busy trying to finish something. But when the project's all finished, you bring in your friends to show them off what you did, they're all going to notice it. And that'll be just like, I wish I would have done it different. Okay, here we go. All right.
Nice, Dad.
Not bad, eh? Now, you're going to see that if I take this out, it's not directly resting on it right at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little wedge and we'll find a place where we'll create some compression. That establishes a permanent grout line, and when everything is dry and set up, you can just rip that out. Again, we'll put it on a bit of an angle and make this easier in. And then we'll lay it in nice and tight. We'll grab our trim. There's that one. Okay. This is where the details are, right? Now we want to be flush on this, flush on this. This one carry the weight here, and then it won't pull forward anymore. There we go. Now I found taking one of these spacers with the little thin piece here. These are the lash wedges. They find these at Home Depot. They're great for around tubs and shower pans, keep stone from scratching up against the acrylic. Here's another spot, right here on the grout line to the metal. And behind the stone. Whew, getting excited. $17. Last piece of stone for the niche, anyway. And then we have to put the bench on, which has got its own unique challenges, right? So there is my factory edge on this side, right? And it's relatively flush here. So what I want to do is I want to just put a little bit of cement there. But on the back of this, I want to actually intentionally leave a little bit of a ridge. So I'm going to break it to the back, and then I'm going to go like that. And here's why. Because when I install this tile, that extra cement sits on the back and it gives me an automatic slope. So I'm going to lay that in place. Comme ça. I'm going to put this metal trim on now. This is where the patience part comes in, right? See, this is the minor details here where this is all about using these wedges to get all of your metals to look good. It's a huge accomplishment. Now, if your front edge of your stone is above your metal, which it is here, you can push down on the back of that because you have extra cement. Okay. The last thing you want to really pay attention to is this. Our corners are lined up. I mean, I'm pretty darn happy with this. Would they be better? Maybe. Am I going to really lose any sleep over this? No. That's actually even better. Fool around, experiment with these wedges. Make sure this is exactly what you want. Make sure that you're not going to catch any of the corners. You don't want to have any movement. You don't want to catch any of the corners. Because when you're washing your shower, this is the danger part, you're going to use a sponge or something, but if your hand comes along and catches that edge of that metal, it's going to slice you wide open, okay? So make sure you're exactly flush or just a hair recessed and let the grout do the rest of the work. This is one of these situations where you don't need hardly any space at all. We're using a special grout on the wall that's got no sand in it, and it's designed for 1/32 of an inch up to 1/2 an inch, and it'll fill all of that space with polymer. So you can have just a hairline crack and it'll fill it and seal it perfectly. And at the end of the day, the waterproofing system is behind the tile. The grout system is just to give it a good finished clean look, okay, to fill all your voids. I'm really pleased with that. Last thing you want to do is just throw a level on there. Make sure that it's got a slope. The way you do that is you just lift the bubble until it's in between the lines. If there's any slope at all, you're not going to have water sitting on that shelf. 1 degree, that's all it takes, okay? That's level, that's 1 degree slope. So one of the challenges in working in an old house is everything's totally out of level. And so building anything becomes a real challenge. This is one of these situations where my trim is really not the right height for a full piece of stone, because the full piece of stone comes here. And so because of the bench, it's just, I wasn't getting that feel that I wanted with the building of the bench. We're finishing the stone, so I'm going to go with a second piece of trim that goes right there. Okay. Wow, I really cut that perfect, didn't I? All right, so that'll be my trim. So now I have to build up the cement on this bench, not just for installing the tile flush, and installing the angle, but underneath this trim, because the bench is just a little bit beneath the original trim as well. So we'll take that out for now. Our cement is still pretty wet. So I'm going to take the back side here. I'm kind of almost filling it in like I'm doing a cement job. Wow, that is nasty. Look at the size of that rock. Yeah, this cement is nasty because, you know, I'm cheap. I had half a bag of cement left over and I decided to put it in storage. So here I am working, and I needed just enough cement for the bench and a couple of other tiles. So I reached into that old bag and mixed it up, and it is just a mess to work with. But because we're adding so much cement, I'm not concerned about the odd chunk. Here we go. Now that's done. Let's get this on. I'm also using Ultra Color Grout, which grouts out 1/16 of an inch with no issues. And I have a complete waterproof system in behind my tile. So I have nothing to lose here. We'll fill up this space a little bit. Yes, it would have been better if I could have made this a little thicker. But the truth is, old cement just does not break up as well during the mixing process. So you got to do some of that finishing right here. Break all these little chunks up. It'll thicken up right here on the spot as I work. Okay, there we go, that's getting better. Now I'm also going to add the cement to this. Okay, here's my front edge. The front edge, we want to put enough cement on there that it will hold up. Okay, so it doesn't sink when it's setting. And that's what that looks like. And the back of that tile, I want it to be similar, but just like we did over in the niche. And run it along like that. Wow, this is such a messy cement. Remind me to show my son how to mix cement. Now we're adding a little bit more in the back because we're trying to create that 1 degree slope. That's all it takes. We're going to set the back in first, and then lay the front in. There we go. This is where having a pail of water with a sponge around is really handy. Because this is actually sitting pretty level right now. The front end is up a little high. All right, we're going to set that into the trim. So the stone is just a hair higher than the metal trim. That's always the goal when you're using these trims on a bench. Any kind of flat surface, you want your stone just a hair higher. And have one of these here. Make sure there is definitely a grout line there. You can manipulate that as much as you want to. That's level. That's 1 degree downslope. Check it out over here. It's a little bit much. Good. All right. All right, so the tile's done, it's ready for grout, and really all you gotta do now is just prep the area for grouting, which is using one of your little grout remover tools. That's what they call a grout remover tool. And I like to use it areas like this. Whenever you're using a tile clip leveling system, it's very normal for cement to get bogged in between the tiles where the clip was. And so you can actually take this and run it in that grout line and clean that cement out. In that situation there's actually a piece of that plastic clip left over. Okay, we need to get that removed or pressed in. There we go. Now we've got a place the grout can fill. So we're going to wash the walls, make sure all of our sediment or residue cement is gone. Once the shower is completely clean, then we will go ahead and do our grout. So in this video, we're going to show you how to mix it real quick. We're going to show you a couple of application tips, but for the complete grouting process, click the link below when you're done this video. We showed a really in-depth detailed video there, and it's awesome. And hopefully you'll like that project. Anyway, let's get on with it. Today we're using the Mapai Grout Cara Color, and we're going to use the matching caulking. It's a siliconized caulk, 4 showers, has the same grout color on it. Okay, and we're going to show you the technique because this part of the house has got a lot of movement. It's an old stone foundation, so I can't grout my inside corners. I have to use a caulking. Different places in the world, depending on the climate, you know, how many seasons you get changing, you may or may not need to use this. I know in California, for instance, they make it mandatory. So it all depends where you live. You might want to follow the procedure in the other video, or you might want to follow this procedure in this video. So we're going to show you this example here, and then you got options. What we're looking for here real quick is to make sure that every one of our grout lines has got a groove that needs to be filled, okay? And all of our tile is wiped over at least once, because what this will do is it'll expose any cement that's on the wall. And wow, that was a really nice clean install. All right, here we go. Looking for cement, so I can show you. Right here, but now it's gone, okay. One of the rules of washing your grout is you want to do this within 48 hours of applying your tile. Just because once you let the cement cure for too long, it gets really difficult to remove. So if you get at it within the first day or two, you're going to be fine. If you're using a quick set cement, you want to get at it within the next morning. More than 12 hours, you're going to run into trouble. You're going to end up using tools to take off the grout that's on the tile, and then that's going to run you the risk of damaging your stone. So when the cement gets wet, it goes really dark. There's no groove there. So I'm going to use this tool to ensure that I got a groove that needs to be filled. And then push that sponge right in that groove. It'll help to clean it all out. There we go. So you'll see when I hit the cement, it goes dark. Now, just get it nice and wet and leave it for a few seconds. We'll finish washing the rest of the tile, and that water will soak into that cement and it'll start softening it up. That good old emulsification process. Okay, so you'll see after a few seconds, it starts to come off. If it's really thick like this one is, you can always take a flat tool like this, get the majority of it, wet it again, let it sit. Next time I come back, it'll just wipe right off. Now in a process like this, where I've got a large shower, but hardly any grout lines, I only need maybe half a bag of this. And I don't generally like to mix a half a bag of grout, but the reality is if you're dealing with sanded grout, it's a lot more dangerous. The trick with mixing grout is to put water in first. when you add the powder to the water, it keeps it from collecting in the bottom of the pail in the corners. So it gets a nice mix. The danger is putting the water in first. Here's the reason why. If you put too much, then you're just in a lot of trouble. So if you don't have any experience with this sort of thing, then I would suggest get one of those paint sticks that you can use to scrape the edges and just put a touch of water in, like this. Okay, like just, I'm thinking that was about 2 cups of water. Mix in half your grout and then stop. Okay, now this product, you can add the dry powder and the water as you go. All right, so a little bit of this, a little bit of that until you get the right consistency, won't hurt. Okay, and you can mix it by hand if you want to, but I have a nice big slow mixing drill, and the rotations per minute on this drill is slow enough that I can mix grout. If you use a regular high-speed drill, it's going to go so fast, you can actually separate all the materials in the powder, and you're going to have different colors all over the wall. Now you can see that that's really dry, but watch the transformation here. We'll just put in a drip. Okay, that's not much at all. It still looks really dry, but you see how much darker it is. A little bit of water goes a long way. I know this might seem ridiculous, but we really want to be careful we don't over wet. Like I said, you can always go slow and add it as you go. And you can see we have a bit of combination of some thick paste and some still pretty dry stuff. That's just 2 handfuls of water, okay? I think I'm making my point. You can see how this is almost perfect. Now I just need a little bit of water to loosen up the mix so that I can apply it properly. Now I'm going to inspect this now, okay? I'm just going to feel it out with my finger. It's very granular still, okay? There's still lots of chunks in here. And that's because even though it looks good, it's not ready. I would say it's still probably 50% of this mix is still in chunk powder form. So I'm going to throw in another cup of water. There we go. And now I'm going to mix it for about 2 minutes. And that'll get rid of all of that sandy feel, okay? Because there is no sand in this mix. It feels sandy, it's not mixed yet. Okay, another inspection. There we go, see that? Now it's ready to go. Whew. I know that seems a little monotonous, and if you have lots of experience, you tend to just get a feel for what's the right mix. But if you're new and you've never done this before, take your time, back and forth, powder water if you must, but make sure you mix it properly so that when you're touching it up against you don't feel that grainy feeling, okay? Unsanded grout works great if it's nice and thick and it's not grainy. The minute you put too much water in there, it ends up just shrinking in the grout line as it's drying. All that water evaporates during the drying process. So, less is definitely better. There we go. This is really nice. Now, because we're relying on the caulking for all of our inside corners, that's the ceiling, this joint here along the bottom of the tub, all we're filling up is everything else. Okay. Now, when you're applying this on the wall, if you see gritty sections, use this like a palette. Just run it all back and forth until it all melts in. Not a problem. There we go. And you want to go on a 45-degree angle. That's this way, 45 degrees open off the wall, and this way, across your grout joint. That will force it down and forward and fill that gap, so the air has the ability to escape. If you just come at it like this, you're only just rubbing the top in, and you're full of air in behind. And then when you wash it, you'll end up with all kinds of pinholes. Same thing, you want to fill that gap up against your trim. use that 45-degree angle there again. And since I really have nothing left to show you, we're just going to go to a time lapse and I'll see you at the other end of the grout. Okay, so I'm all done putting on my grout. And I'm going to just take a good chunk of it here and set it in the corner of my shower pan. All right, and that, as a huge lump, it takes a lot longer for it to dry out and cure. So I have the availability to use it almost like a bit of putty for finished carpentry. If I find any pinholes or areas that I want to touch up, like that, amazing, then I can always come back and fix it. I'm going to get this thrown out and get this pail cleaned out and full of clean water, because when I'm washing, I want to use 2 pails. I don't want to use dirty water over and over again. I just leave a lot of film and sediment on the wall, and that's not good for anybody. So basically, when you're washing, the first wipe is just taking off all the excess, because there's more on there than you need, right? Don't worry about getting it on the ceiling. The ceiling should already be painted at this point so that it doesn't cause any permanent staining. You can just wipe it all off. Okay, and you want to wipe in the same kind of manner that you put the grout on that angle. All right, it helps to make sure that you're not, if you wipe in along the same as the grout line, you'll end up dragging your sponge into that grout line and digging it all out. So you want to wipe on an angle as well, so that you keep the grout line full. Keep your sponge clean. Wipe and flip it over. That's it. That is the whole process right there. Now that we've had the fan running for a couple hours, our grout is pretty much set into place. It's not running the risk of getting wiped out, and so we're going to continue on by doing the caulking work. But before we do that, we have to make sure we have all the residue and dust off the stone. This is one of the major mistakes people make when they're grouting. They think that every time they want to clean the stone, they have to use water and they want to wash it. In this case, all this residue, this haze, you actually want to take this off with a dry rag. Okay? This is what's amazing. This little bit here, this is actual grout in the texture of the stone. And you can just rub that right out. And that is how you want to clean your stone. You don't want to use water here. If you use water, then you're just spreading the haze yet again, and then you're still going to have to clean it. Okay? Now doing grout work, it's elbow grease. It's blood, sweat, and tears, right? I mean, this is work. If you run into a space that's not cleaning up for you, it might even be cement from the last time, all right? So, if you gotta use water to clean it, that's fine. Once you're done, throw away your rag, get a dry rag, and buff it. Make sure that there's no haze gonna be coming back. The reason why you wanna do it this way is because if you start adding water to the grout joints and wiping them again, you're actually gonna wash the colorant out of the grout. And then you'll have very much inconsistencies everywhere you go. So here's the bench. It was incredibly dirty. It was right near the end of the washing cycle and the water was getting dirty. So you can see that if I want to buff that, it only gets so good. So I'm going to add a little bit of water, but I'm going to try to keep it away from the grout area. Okay? Just so that I can lift off that extra grout that's in the texture of the stone. Here we go. Now that I'm done, go back and buff it with a dry rag again. And the reason you want to buff it with the dry rag every time you add more water if you need it is because when you go to silicone, your joints need to be completely dry. You don't want wet spots or the silicone isn't going to bond with your tile. All right, so the final stage in your shower is to silicone all of the inside corners. And that's any material change from tile to shower pan, tile to ceiling, or even tile to tile on an inside corner, okay? And for that, we're using Mapai's Caracolor Caulk U for unsanded grout in exactly the same color as the grout. It should all blend together, and you shouldn't be able to tell the difference between the grout or the caulking with any luck. The success of using a product like this is largely based on how you mix your grout and how little water you add to it when you're washing. If you find that you have a different color, it's probably because you overwashed your grout and it's too light, and that's why the caulk stands out. Your caulking tip, I'm going to cut on a 45-degree angle. That's much better. And the idea here is we're going to be filling the joint, and the tip of the caulking gun goes from that side to this side and creates a concave caulking joint. And you just put a little pressure on the gun that you can come right down the inside corner here. And already I'm hating this. So that's disgusting. Yeah, I'm going to go back and find a gray, because I'm not leaving that on the wall. That's just disgusting. In what world do they think that's the same color? Matt Pie, smarten up. Okay, and so for information on how to apply silicone caulking properly, there's a link in the description on our silicone video. And for now, if you'd like to check out all the details from this bathroom, click this link right here, and you'll be able to see the rustic modern bathroom coming together. See you there.